Hello, everyone. This is Prof Ashish Verma from Ministry of Science, Bangalore. Welcome to the fourth WSSTL podcast series, which is in run-up to our upcoming World Symposium on Sustainable Transport and Livability. That's going to happen in June end at Ministry of Science campus. When we think of cycling, we obviously think about Netherlands. That's the de facto, site that comes in our mind, whether it is the landscape of dedicated bike lanes, more bikes than people. But if you look at the history, this wasn't the case always. There has been a journey through which Netherlands has gone through, post-war reconstruction or rising car ownership or the civilian movement. They've all played an important role in how the urban mobility or in general the mobility landscape has shaped in this country, wonderful country, Netherlands. And other important thing that I always give example when I give lectures is that Netherlands is one, among those very few countries which offers both a high standard of living as well as high quality of life. And among the factors that have played towards a high quality of life, I think cycling has been an extremely important factor in my understanding as well. And of course, we'll hear from our guest. So it's my honor to, welcome and have with us Mr. Ewout de Wit, who is the Consul-General of the Kingdom of Netherlands, who will walk us through this transformative journey of Netherlands. Just to introduce our honorable guest, Mr. De Wit joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Netherlands in 1998 and brings with him extensive experience in economics, economic diplomacy, development cooperation, and peace and security. And since 2022, he has been serving as the Consul General for South India. Welcome to have you, sir. So, to begin with, my first question would be, this post-World War era. To the best of our understanding, it has significantly shaped the urban mobility landscape in your country. How, in your opinion, you think this transformation has happened post-World War?
Thanks, Ashish, and thank you very much for inviting me on the podcast. As you know, I'm always happy to talk a little bit about the cycling history in the Netherlands as well, and have become a little bit of an expert on that. I think after World War II, the Netherlands was severely damaged. Mostly in Rotterdam, of course. The city had been bombed in 1940, destroying the whole city center, but other infrastructure was also had suffered from the war. The railways were in a bad state. And after World War II, the country really needed a complete makeover. Luckily, with American assistance under the Marshall Plan, a lot of investments were made, and actually we created an economic boom quite soon after the war. Also during this period, the welfare state was developed, people got more money, new infrastructure was being built, and the infrastructure had in mind that cars, like in the US, would become a more important mode of transportation. So new cities were being designed with the car in mind. Rotterdam was reconstructed with much broader streets, even though there already the shopping promenade was the first pedestrian promenade in the world. So there were some examples, yet car ownership was increasing in the 1950s and 60s, and the infrastructure was also developed for that. So in some of the major cities, you saw that the canals that were there, the waterways that were there, were changed into multi-lane highways into the city center, all accommodating car traffic.
So I'll go to the next question. I think it's really amazing to see how a solution that looks so simple, but like cycling, has played so tremendous role in shaping the sustainable and livable future in Netherlands. So the next question that I had for you was about this, most iconic moment that has influenced the Dutch transport policy, pushing it towards cycling, was that stop the kindermoord, which in English we say stop the child murder. What was this movement all about in your understanding, and how it helped sparked the cycling revolution in Netherlands?
So in the first half of the 20th century, a bicycle was a normal mode of transportation for a lot of people in the Netherlands. As I just explained, after World War II, much more space was made available for cars, and cars became much more important. So in the first half of the 20th century, the bicycle was a normal mode of transportation for many people in the Netherlands. After World War II, as I just explained, much more space was made available for cars, and the cars became much more prominent. In the 1950s and 60s, increasing incomes led to more cars, also in the cities. However, at the same time, children were still on the street, walking to school, cycling to school, and all these cars resulted in accidents whereby a lot of children got injured or lost their lives. And this resulted in this movement, stop the killing of our children or stop the murder of our children with cars, make sure that our children can be safe where they live, where they go to school, where they play. And it was a bottom-up citizens movement demanding a safer space for children in society. And this is really at the heart of the movement that made the Dutch cycling infrastructure, but not only cycling infrastructure, also pedestrian infrastructure, what it is now over the past 6-7 decades, maybe. Really, the people not accepting anymore the threat that cars pose to society and their children specifically. And that resulted in a much more people-centered approach in the Netherlands when designing roads, when designing streets, not only look at car traffic, but take the people who have to use it at the core of design.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think such a movement can still resonate today in today's context in, say, country like India or US?
Yeah, it's always difficult to compare countries over time. This was in the Netherlands in the 1960s and 70s. That is not the same as the US. It's not the same as India now. However, what I always do stress is that in the end, it was a bottom-up movement. It was people getting together, demanding change from their political leaders, saying this is not acceptable anymore. We also deserve to have a place in this planning, in this society. Children are not hurt, but they should have a voice as well. And I think that's a lesson that can be learned by not just relying on what is being decided for you, but also to come with ideas and suggestions bottom up. How can we make it safer? How can we make our streets safer for all of us, all the people who use it?
I remember that time, along with this, child deaths, there was also oil crisis and other, factors that probably, got together and played a role. Maybe some kind of those.
Exactly. It coincided with the oil crisis where our political leaders said, okay, we have to find other ways to build our society. We had carless Sundays when you were not allowed to use your car. So people cycled and walked on the highways. So it coincided also in a time frame that was more open to that maybe than the 50s and 60s had been.
So this whole transformation from cars, to cycling, of course, is, it requires a overarching set of things to be done, from design to planning to policy to public engagement. But most importantly, how did Netherlands ensure that, there's a long-term vision to it and there's a long-term plan to upkeep and adopt the cycling infrastructure and keep maintaining it and keep expanding it? How did this really happen?
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, the infrastructure was not built in 1 year or in 10 years. It has taken decades. It has taken decades of standardizing road design, giving best practices, learning from each other, seeing what a certain city does, creating design of junctions and crossings that are safe for everybody, sharing that knowledge, involving the people who have to use the infrastructure, taking their advice, what do they need, what do they want, and indeed keep updating these designs. Don't do things like you did them in the past. always look at what does the data say, where is it unsafe, how can we make that spot safer, what is the lesson learned we can take from others, what is a standardization that we can put in. I always say we move to roundabouts, for example, but even the design of the roundabout in the Netherlands is constantly evolving to make it safer for everybody. So it's not just one design from 40 years ago that we implement. No, the design gets continuously adapted. And of course, we have a lot of participation, a lot of discussions with the users, with neighborhoods, with people who live there, and involve them in the solutions as well. What do they want to see?
Correct, correct. Going further, of course, it's interesting discussion. So when we are building cycling infrastructure, of course, it's not just about bike lanes. It's also about really reimagining the city, rethinking how the city functions. And, going ahead, there's this Amsterdam Green Infrastructure Vision 2050 that outlines a future where green spaces, cycling, and climate resiliency, they go hand in hand. So how does, in your thinking, the cycling fits into this whole broader strategy for a healthier, more sustainable Dutch cities, and I would say more livable Dutch cities?
Yeah, so the Netherlands aims to be carbon neutral by 2050. So that has an impact on everything that we do, including infrastructure and urban design. In the meantime, we also see that due to climate change, the extremes are getting heavier. It gets hotter. We get more rainfall in shorter periods, and we have to adapt our infrastructure to that as well. And one of the lessons learned is that greenery can help in the city. So first of all, you want to reduce car traffic in the city. You want to entice people to walk or cycle or use a green public transportation. You also want to make paved roads or paved areas into greener areas that can absorb heavy rainfall, that can help cool down the city in heat waves, because the more greenery, the cooler the city can be. So it's all of a package design. And I think what helps in the Netherlands is that we try to keep services accessible for people in their immediate neighborhood. We don't have strict zoning rules like in the US, where you have suburbs and you have other areas that are commercial areas. In the Netherlands, that's much more mixed. I always say the average person in the Netherlands is 2 kilometers away from the main supermarket. It's a distance that's easily cyclable and easily walkable. We don't need to get a car for that. Same for your doctor, same for other services that you require. Usually they are not too far away from where you live. And that also helps build these more people-friendly, climate-resilient cities where you don't need to cover long distances to live your normal life.
And one thing I really find fascinating when I also personally, visit there and see how people use cycle. The important thing is, cycling has become an all-purpose and all-function mode. I mean, people there use it for, say, family travel. They can take their children on cycle. They can go to for shopping and carry their shopping bags. So all kinds of functions, all purposes, we are able to do. So the innovation with product design, cycling being a product and how you innovate for different functions, for different requirement, I think it's fascinating. Was there a role of government to push this innovation towards, making cycling, all purpose, all function mode?
I'm not sure if there was a role really in the innovation, for example, with what we in the Netherlands have, the bakfiets, which has this thing in front where you can put your children or you can put your household goods when moving, transportation of bigger items. I don't think the government was involved in that. However, the government has jumped on promoting cycling. For example, many employers can offer tax-free bicycles to their employees if they decide to commute with their bicycle. For example, working for the government, that is something that we normally have. There is bicycle parking everywhere. The government is really investing. If you look at the latest huge bicycle parkings in Utrecht at the central station or in Amsterdam at the central station, these are fantastic modern, state-of-the-art parkings. So a lot of money is invested into enticing people to use this bicycle more. And then you have private sector that follows up on that with innovative designs, with foldable bicycles, with bicycles that you can use as a whole family with your kids in front and in the back. They are extended. And then you see that the government follows by making bicycle parkings with more space for these longer or wider bicycles as well. So it's a symbiosis of government, private sector working together to try to see how can we stimulate people to use bicycles more, especially also in this last mile connectivity. More than half of the people who go to a train station in the Netherlands arrive by bicycle or on foot. And the same is when you reach your destination, you can easily borrow a bicycle from the train station to go to where you need to go. All of this creates a very easy system to use for especially also this last mile connectivity in the cities, centers, where people can get around quite easily.
I mean, it's amazing to see a wealthy country with a very good standard of living and per capita income. So many people seamlessly and with their choice use cycle. And I jokingly see that if you go fishing in Netherlands, you may not find fish, but you may still find a cycle underwater as well. So there's so many cycles. But of course, world across countries and cities would like to learn from the Dutch experience and Dutch model. So from your point of view, any practical lessons that you think, cities with different urban forms or traffic behavior can take from this Dutch experience of cycling?
Yeah, so it's important to take cycling, but not just cycling. I would say also pedestrian traffic into account in your design from the early stages. It's not just an add-on. You have public transport, you have bicycles, you have pedestrian traffic, and you have cars. I mean, in the Netherlands, there's still cars that drive around. It's not like we don't have them anymore. It's part of a mix. And for certain purposes, you can use certain things. So it's taking it into account from the beginning. In the Netherlands, we have developed a lot of expertise on how to do this. So there is organizations like the Dutch Cycling Embassy that contribute to that. Take it into account from the beginning. Look also at last mile connectivity. In a place like Bangalore, for example, there is no major hills. The city is quite flat. The climate is also not too bad. It could be a solution here. And it doesn't necessarily mean creating bicycle lanes everywhere. It is also looking at, okay, how can you keep bicycles in maybe some slower residential streets, keep them away from the main roads, but then still create through routes that people can use to get from one part of the city to the other. In the Netherlands, you will find that it's often easier to go from one neighborhood to the next by bicycle on a dedicated bicycle lane than by car when you have to make a slight U-turn. So we have special routes for bicycles that differ from the ones that you take with a car. And that usually with a bicycle get you to your destination more efficiently.
Wonderful. And I think in public transport friendly city, it's equally important to have a very good quality access by cycling and walking to make use of public transport also equally, important. And in Netherlands also, even for intercity travel, I find it so fascinating to use the railway system.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
you can just come out of Schiphol airport, just go one level down and catch a train to any part of Netherlands. It's so seamlessness.
If I can respond to that, if I look at my own example, if I go to work in the Netherlands, I go on my bicycle, dressed like I am now in my full suit. But okay, if it starts raining, I need to know that there's a fallback option with public transportation as well, because I'm not going to cycle through the rain. So you need to have a good, efficient public transport system in place as well.
I'll just, come to the concluding question. I have come across this interesting tidbit that says the Dutch don't wear helmets. So, I mean, considering that there's so much of cycling that happens in Dutch, why is this the case? How do you think we have made the cycling infrastructure so safe and well designed?
Yeah, we always say the Dutch, they dress for the destination and not for the ride, which is not fully true. But many people like me use a bicycle for transportation. It's not for exercise. It's not for sports. It's to go from A to B. And we don't want the hassle of having to, comb our hair and everything when we get to the place. We dress for the place that we are going to. I never wear a helmet while cycling in the Netherlands. I've never felt the need because I feel safe. We have dedicated bicycle lanes. We have slow traffic, traffic calming in certain places. I don't feel in danger. However, we do see that again, some accidents are on the increase also because of the increasing number of e-bikes that we have, e-bicycles. They go faster, they are heavier. So the government has started to promote the wearing of helmets when cycling. But this requires a big cultural change, and cultural changes are not so easy to achieve. So they start now with focus on children, for example, with the idea that if children get more used to wearing a helmet, maybe over time that will result in more people wearing helmets, especially with these bicycles that have a little engine that can make you go faster, that are heavier, and that have an increased risk of accidents.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, having a safe infrastructure is extremely important and critical in people feeling good about cycling. In fact, personally, I live in ISC campus where I work. So within campus, I am very comfortable using my own cycle, but I really don't feel the same comfort while I go out of the ISC campus because of the safety, reasons. And feeling of unsafe. So,
No, yeah, I
but
mean,
I
as
must
I
say,
said, in the Netherlands, I never wear a helmet. If I cycle here in Bangalore, I do. It's necessary to have this to feel safe in the infrastructure. And I think what's big difference in the Netherlands is that everybody who is driving a car is also a cyclist or has been a cyclist when they were young. So people who drive cars are aware what it feels like to be on the road and riding a bicycle as well.
correct. Yeah. And I must say, I have a wonderful, wooden Dutch cycle, buff bikes, which is, a formal gift that I received when your former mayor of Amsterdam and actually visited our ISC campus. And we had some MOU signing between ISC and University of Amsterdam that time. Our previous Consul-General of the country, Mr. Alfonso Stolling, was also there with him. And he that time gifted the cycle, and I preserve it in my office, very nicely, and use it on special days to promote cycling in Bangalore. So in many ways, I carry this Dutch example with me and preserve it and showcase it to promote cycling in our city. So with this, I am extremely thankful to you, Mr. Ewout, for joining this podcast. And for sharing your time and experience. It's been such a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure this conversation has brought so much of deeper insight into how cycling has paved the way for more sustainable and livable Dutch cities. And this would be a wonderful experience for others to listen to and take forward. So with this, I can just conclude and say to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. And for more information about the upcoming World Symposium on Sustainable Transport and Livability, please visit our official website, and we'll continue this conversation in a more deeper way during the symposium. Mr. Ewout is also one of our invited speakers during the symposium, and we look forward to have more engaging conversation that time. Thank you once again, Mr. Ewout, and thanks to all the listeners. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.